Oh, my husband, Patrick, was diagnosed with stage 4 stomach cancer on March 22nd, and a little less than a month later, on April 17th, he passed away. And I have been wanting to share his story, share our story, my side of things. And the idea of sitting down and filming has been really hard, and I just haven't been able to do it. And I just thought that getting out here and walking one of my favorite trails by my house and just being outside and in nature has always been calming to me. So sorry for the shaky video, because I'm just holding my phone. But if I'm going to do this video, this is how I'm going to do it. So it all started in probably like October, I would say, with major back pains. That's where all of his pain kind of started, and it got progressively worse. And he asked some friends, a friend who's a physical therapist, and some other people, just some ideas, and asking them for help on how to kind of alleviate that. What are some things that he could do? And nothing he did really helped. And then starting in December, he started saying how, man, it really sucks to get old. I just can't eat as much as I used to. And this kid, he could eat, and he could eat a ton, and he loved to eat. And so he's like, I just can't eat as much as I used to. I just get full too fast. I get heartburn now. And that was kind of the start of his stomach symptoms, I would say. And then it didn't really get bad until January. And then it started getting really bad, and he would have really horrible stomach pains. I remember at this point, we were married. I was super pregnant, and I was staying at my parents'. We had been going through a lot in our relationship, and I was living at my parents' at the time. And he calls me in the middle of the night in tears. He's in so much pain, and he doesn't know what to do. And I felt horrible for him, and I didn't know what to tell him. And I kept saying, like, look, you got to get to a doctor. But he didn't have health insurance, and so he didn't want to have to pay for a doctor's visit. And I kept saying, like, it's not getting better. You need to see a doctor. And he's like, no, it's fine. I'll just keep taking Rolaids. And then it got to a point where he kind of stopped eating, because it would just hurt too bad when he would eat, or after he would eat. And he is a type 1 diabetic, so he has 2 different kinds of insulin that he's on. One, Humalog, he would take with food as needed, depending on how much he would eat, and where his sugar level's at. And the second one, Lantus, he would take every day. It's a 24-hour insulin. And so he cut back on his Humalog because he wasn't eating, but he still had to take his Lantus. And there was an incident where his sugars dropped crazy low. So one night, his sugars like bottomed out. And I had just gotten to work in the morning, and I get a phone call from his phone, and it was one of the guys from downstairs. Underneath the apartment is an office, and the guys in the office heard him yelling and banging on the floor, and they go up to check on him, and he is on the floor. He had been sleeping on the couch because that's the only thing that was somewhat comfortable for his back and for his stomach pains. And so he was able to get himself off the couch. Like, he flopped off the couch and was banging on the floor and moaning, and that was the only control he had over his body. He couldn't talk, he couldn't control his limbs really. Like, he had lost all control. His body was seizing up. They asked me if they should call an ambulance, and I'm like, absolutely, and I'll be right there. So I get there, the ambulance gets there, they give him glucose, and then take him to the hospital. And I said, by the time we got to the hospital, he was acting himself again, and I told him, like, look, this happened because you're not eating. Your sugars are dropping because you're still taking your insulin, because you have to, but you're not eating, and you're not eating because you're in so much pain. And so you need to say something like, we're already here, we're already gonna have to pay for this visit. Just let them know what's going on. We need to figure out, because that's the root of the problem. And so they do some tests, they do a chest x-ray, and they say he has a start of an ulcer. They give him a prescription for an antacid that's over the counter, just taking like double what regular over the counter would take, and then another prescription that was supposed to like coat the lining of the stomach. So he takes that for the prescribed time, and it's not getting better. And they had said, follow up with your doctor. And while we were in the hospital, they actually signed him up for Medicaid because he didn't have the health insurance. And he was approved, so that was great. So he had the insurance now, so he could go to the doctor. He finally goes. So he goes to the doctor, and the doctor says, no, they should have never put you on that. That's making the problem worse. Gave him a muscle relaxer for his back to take as needed, but told him, there's nothing we can do for your stomach. It just kind of has to heal itself, and that could take up to 6 months. Sorry. Sends him away. Don't take that stuff anymore. So he stops taking the antacid right away. And then, but he's still in pain, and the pain's getting worse, and it's getting worse, and he's like not able to function. The whole time I was at the hospital, like having the baby, he's curled up in a ball, like in pain, and I don't know how to help, and it was just horrible. And I say, look, we need to figure this out. You need to get a second opinion. You need to go back to the doctor. Like, there can't not be anything. Like, they have to do something. So he gets another appointment, and he goes back. We've had the baby at this point, and I'm living back at home, and the doctor says, okay, we're gonna run some tests, and wants a CAT scan and wants some blood work. And the day that he was supposed to, I'm getting shaky. The day that he was supposed to get his blood work and do the CAT scan, he had another bottomed out blood sugar. Call the ambulance again. This time we didn't take him to the hospital just because we knew the glucose would get him back to the level he was supposed to be at. But the blood work's supposed to be fasting, so since he had a glucose, he couldn't do that. We tried to do the CAT scan. Neither of us had one, so we didn't know you had to get this stuff and drink it beforehand. So we just picked up the stuff and had to reschedule. So that was on like a Thursday or Friday, and then Tuesday rolls around, and he texts me from work, and he just says, I'm in so much pain, like I can't take it, like it's so bad. I'm starting to cough up acid. And then he calls me a couple hours later, like in the afternoon, early afternoon, and he says that I can't do it anymore. My mom's picking me up, and she's gonna take me to the hospital, and I'm gonna go to the ER. And I said, okay, good. Let me know what happens. I'm home with the baby, so I can't go. And he keeps me updated, and he says how they're gonna do a CAT scan. Okay. And we're waiting, and I say, let me know when they're done, and I'll try to come. And he calls in the evening. It was like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and he says, they're just now like getting to the CAT scan or whatever, and they're gonna keep him overnight. So when I hear that, I'm like, okay, I want to come. So I drop Lincoln off at my parents', and I get there. They had done the CAT scan, and we're just waiting for the results. And I'm there when they get the results. And the ER doctor comes in and says that there is a large mass in his stomach, and that it could just be inflammation, or it could be cancerous, which is what they believe that it was. And my heart just stops when you hear that word cancer. And it just, we couldn't believe it. You know, he couldn't believe it. His mom couldn't believe it. Like, he's so young. And it's hard to explain what was going through my head. At one point, I kind of just thought, all right, well, you know what? Everyone gets cancer these days. Everyone gets cancer. I can't think of, and you know, I don't think there's any one person who has not known someone who's been affected by cancer. And so I'm like, okay, you know, we'll get through this. We'll figure out whatever treatment we need to do, and we're gonna get through it. And it's just stomach cancer, right? You know, you don't hear about stomach cancer. You hear about how horrible pancreatic cancer is, and you hear a lot about breast cancer and how prevalent that is, but you don't hear about stomach cancer, so it really can't be a big deal, right? That's what I thought. And midnight's approaching. They're gonna keep him, obviously. They're just waiting for a bed, and they were going to do a biopsy in the morning to see if it was cancerous and kind of what stage we're at here. And so I go home, and as soon as I get in the car, I just lose it. I tried really hard in the hospital room to stay positive, and you know, it could just be an inflammation. It could be just a tumor. You know, there are tumors that aren't cancerous. You know, it could be benign, and it doesn't have to be cancer. It could be other things. But as soon as I was alone in my car, it kind of all caught up to me, and I cried the entire way home. I get to my parents, and I let them know what happened, and my dad wanted me to stay the night. He's like, I don't want you going back to the apartment alone. And so I just go and I get my some stuff from the apartment, and I've stayed at my parents' ever since. That's where the crying part comes in, guys. You know, it's amazing how fast things change. You know, I had no idea that Monday night was our last night together. The three of us as a family. And I never knew that him going to work was the last time he would leave. That he wouldn't come home after that. And it was hard. And so Wednesday, I go to the hospital. I wait until the afternoon because I wanted to wait till after the biopsy was done, because I had Lincoln, and I can't bring Lincoln to the hospital, obviously. And I didn't. He was only 5 weeks old at the time, so he's a newborn, like a newborn. So I didn't feel comfortable leaving him for extended periods of time. But I also wanted to be at the hospital. This is where my dilemma and my torn, needs come in. The two men in my life, the two boys in my life, desperately needed me, and were in two different places at once, and the juggling act began. But I go after the procedure, and I stay for a little bit, and then Thursday, it was March 22nd, was the day we were supposed to get the results back. So I go early in the morning, and I'm there all day. His mom had not left. the whole time that he was in the hospital. So she left briefly just to kind of get a shower and get some stuff done, and she came right back just because we knew the doctor would be coming. And he doesn't come till the afternoon, like around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and endocrinologist comes in, and I had all day Wednesday, I just kind of ignored the phone. I ignored Google. I didn't Google anything I didn't want to know. Thursday, I finally get around to Googling stomach cancer and find out that it is one of the worst cancers. You don't hear about it because it's not prevalent in the United States. It's a lot more common in Asia, and it's also not common in young. The average age of someone being diagnosed with stomach cancer is in their 70s, and he was 32. So it was a big shock as I'm reading this, and stage 1, if it's stage 1 cancer, they are forced, one of the first things they do is remove the entire stomach, and that's if it's stage 1. And usually this cancer is not caught until it gets to one of the later stages. And so I kind of had an inkling of what was coming, and then at 4 o'clock the doctor comes in. So at 4 o'clock the endocrinologist comes in and lets us know that they did the biopsy, and it is cancerous. And that day, apart from the day that he died, I think that day is the worst day of my life. That moment, you have moments in your life that you'll never forget. You'll never forget where you were and what you were doing, and so, okay, cancer. And the words just kept getting worse, and stage 4, terminal, uncurable, inoperable, all these horrible words, and it just keeps getting worse, and I just kind of start to shut down a little bit, and I stop. I just stop, and I can't think, and I can't listen, and he's talking, and it's like I see you talking, but I can't understand anything you're saying, because as soon as I heard stage 4, I knew that meant he was going to die. The 5-year survival rate for stage 4 stomach cancer, I think, was 4%, 5%. He's talking about how we can try to make it more comfortable, and we're gonna do some tubes, a feeding tube, because he's never gonna be able to eat again, and he needs nutrients, and a drainage tube because the tumor is 8 centimeters, is blocking the bottom of his stomach. I don't know why I just started mine. And wants us to pick a surgeon as soon as possible, so that could get done, and then it would be chemo treatments. They were going to send the tissue sample out to a lab to try to get, I'm probably screwing up all of these medical terms or whatever, because like I said, I was totally out of it. But they were going to try to do like a targeted therapy, and kind of try to target exactly, I don't know what they were targeting, but some with the cancer. I don't know. We never actually got to that point. Patrick really did not like the endocrinologist at the hospital. He was very kind of full of himself, which I'm kind of used to for doctors. Patrick was saying how he wanted to go to Philly. You know, Philly has the A-plus doctors, and he doesn't want the South Jersey doctors. He wants the Philly doctors, the A-plus doctors. And this guy pulls out of his pocket a letter. It's all crumpled up, and he just hands it to me. Like, he doesn't even tell me any anything about what it's about. He just hands it to me, and it's a letter saying that he's going to be featured in this one magazine. And I'm like, okay, cool. And he's like giving me this look like, yep, see, yep, I'm fantastic. And like totally unnecessary. And we have all these questions, and we want to know like the real answers of like, okay, well, like, what's the time frame here? Like, when do we have to start chemo? What kind of chemo do we need to do? What is the chemo, like, is the chemo going to help cure this, or is this, like, what's the plan? What do we have to do? And how serious is this? Like, is there, do you know how much longer he could live? Like, what is it? And instead of answering any of our serious questions, he was talking about his daughter and what his daughter's doing for work in California, and just trying to make small talk and changing the subject all the time, and it was really frustrating. And it was really frustrating. So I immediately start kind of looking up, okay, where else can we go? And we decided to go with Cooper. They have an MD Anderson Center at Cooper. And because he's on Medicaid, he needed to stay in the state of New Jersey, and Cooper is in New Jersey. After the doctors left, his mom goes out to make a few phone calls, and it's just me and him, and we had a short little conversation, the two of us, about what all this means, and I needed to get some air, so I go out in the hallway and I try to find a vending machine, and I am sobbing down the hall, and people are passing, and I can't stop. And I try really hard to not cry and to kind of keep it together. And I get to the vending machines, and luckily it's in a little enclosed area, and I lose it, and I totally lose it, and I've never cried that much and that hard in public in my entire life. And I just couldn't believe that this is happening. I couldn't believe this is real life. How does this happen? This can't be real. It's just heartburn. It can't be real. It can't. And I sat there and I cried for a long time, and I texted some girlfriends and my sister and some family, and I was mad. I was mad at the situation. And they had some words of comfort, and the rest of the night was kind of a blur.